Field presets are a really handy feature in RackForms that allows us to save groups of elements so that we can apply them to a different page in the same job or a different job entirely. And they work a little something like this. So let's say I'm building a form and I'm building, let's say, a contest entry form. So I'm always going to be asking for the user's name and for their age. And I know that I have to build, let's say, 20 of these forms, and I don't want to have to create name and age every single time I create one of the forms. I want to save these two elements so that I can apply them very quickly and easily. So it works a little something like this. I add my two fields, in this case 2 fields. We'll take a look at a larger example shortly. But I add the 2 fields. I then select my page header by clicking in the gray bar so that I can show my page properties. And then under page properties, page layout, I'm going to go ahead and select freeform. Now the reason why I'm going to select freeform is so that I can drag a lasso around the 2 fields that I want to save, right? So I'm selecting the elements that I want to create a preset out of. Then with my mouse still over, that is physically hovering over one of the fields that I want to save, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say create field presets group. I'm going to again give my preset a name and a description. In this case, I'll just keep it simple and say 1, and I'll click save preset. Now, when I, let's say, have a new job or a different page, I can go ahead and I can right click, say add field presets group, and then select that preset, and it's added to my page. Now the one thing to note about this process right here is that, again, when I saved my preset group, I switched over to freeform mode because that's how I lasso select the different elements that I have. But I don't need to be in the same page layout mode to add those elements to my page again. In other words, I could just have a sortable page and add those elements to the page. Now, that's a pretty simplified example. A more common example is going to be something like this. Let's say I have an existing form here with maybe a couple fields, and I actually want to add something that's a little bit larger. And so it usually looks something like this. I would be working on my form, and I would say, add the field presets group to my page, and let me say add this US address right here. And so now you can see here that we have a lot more fields that were added, but, and this is really key, they're actually contained within a bucket element right here. And so the bucket element then allows us to save a lot of different elements in one convenient little package. And this is usually the way I work, and the reason why I like it is because whenever I add this field preset to my page right here, it's really easy to see, oh, well, here's the bucket that I just added to my page. Now, if you've never worked with buckets before, as a brief introduction to them, they're simply a type of container in RackForms that allows us to drag and drop elements anywhere within the bucket and then have that bucket contain all those elements. So for example, if I want to add a new bucket, I'd go under Layout, add the bucket, and then add any of the form field items that I wanted to that bucket. And of course, I can add and remove elements from that bucket at any time. But they're just a really nice, handy way of grouping elements together. Finally, I should say that one of the other really common use cases that I personally use buckets for is for things like database queries. So let's further imagine that I'm building this contest entry form, but it's also tied to, let's say, our existing customers database. So it's a promotional thing that we're doing for our customers, and we're just going to send out an email that says sign up for our contest. And so one of the things that we want to do is for every one of these contest forms I create, query the customer's database table and grab some information about them. And so what I'll usually do in those cases then is I'll have my, let's say, query module right here. I would then write the query to call into the customer's database table, and then I will just save that as a field preset, right? So I would say customer's query, and I would write a little description about it, and then this would actually call into that database every time I wanted to call into my customers table. And this is just now a really easy way to add that logic to every page that I want to create. So that's a quick look at our field presets. Of course, if you ever have any questions about this or anything else in RackForms, please let us know at info@rackforms.com.